Why Barcelona almost went bankrupt. One of the greatest football clubs in history. A club that conquered Europe, produced legends, and inspired millions around the world. But behind the trophies, the famous stadium, and the superstar players, a financial disaster was quietly growing. Millions were coming in, but even more was going out. Debt was rising. Salaries were exploding. And eventually, Barcelona reached a moment nobody thought was possible. The greatest player in the club's history was forced to leave. So how did one of football's biggest clubs get into such a deep financial crisis? This is the story of how Barcelona nearly collapsed, and how they fought to survive. The Golden Empire. For years, Barcelona looked almost unstoppable. The club was winning trophies. The stadium was packed. Merchandise was selling around the world. Sponsors were paying millions. And on the pitch, Barcelona had something every club dreamed of. Superstars. Lionel Messi became the face of an entire generation. Alongside incredible teammates, Barcelona built one of the most successful teams football had ever seen. Success created money. And money created even bigger ambitions. But there was a problem. The club began spending aggressively. Huge transfer fees, massive contracts, and enormous player salaries. As long as the trophies kept coming, the spending seemed justified. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But behind the scenes, the numbers were becoming harder and harder to control. And then, the world changed. The spending machine. Barcelona had become one of the biggest clubs on the planet. But being one of the biggest clubs also came with enormous costs. Every season required huge amounts of money to maintain the squad. Top players demanded top salaries. Transfers became more expensive. And the pressure to compete with Europe's richest clubs kept increasing. The club couldn't simply stop spending, because stopping could mean falling behind. So the cycle continued. More money, more contracts, more expenses, and more pressure. For a while, the success on the pitch covered the problems underneath. But financial problems don't disappear just because a team wins football matches. Eventually, the numbers catch up. And Barcelona's numbers were about to get much worse. The world stops. Then came 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic changed football overnight. Stadiums became empty. Fans disappeared. Matches were played in silence. And for Barcelona, that meant a massive source of income suddenly vanished. No packed Camp Nou. No normal matchday revenue. No stadium crowds. No regular stadium tours. Merchandise and commercial activity were also hit. But there was one thing that didn't disappear. The bills. Player salaries still had to be paid. Contracts still existed. Operating costs continued. And the financial pressure became harder to hide. Barcelona was now fighting two battles at the same time. One on the football pitch, and another inside the club's finances. Debt was becoming a major problem. And the situation was getting closer to a breaking point. The moment everything changed. Then came August 2021. A moment that shocked football. Lionel Messi, Barcelona's greatest modern legend, was leaving. For more than 2 decades, Messi had been connected with Barcelona. He had won trophies, broken records, scored unforgettable goals, and become the symbol of the club. Fans expected him to finish his career in Barcelona. But there was a problem. The club couldn't simply register his new contract under the financial conditions it was facing. The relationship that had defined an entire era was ending. And when Messi appeared at his farewell press conference, the football world watched in disbelief. This wasn't just the departure of a player. It felt like the end of an era. And behind that emotional goodbye was a much bigger story. Barcelona's financial problems had finally become impossible to ignore. The fight to survive. Barcelona now had a massive challenge. The club needed money. It needed to reduce its financial pressure. And it needed to rebuild the team without destroying its future. Under President Joan Laporta, Barcelona began searching for solutions. One of the most controversial strategies became known as the economic levers. In simple terms, Barcelona sold portions of future income and other assets in order to generate money immediately. It was a risky strategy, because getting cash today can solve today's problem, but it can also reduce what you earn tomorrow. Barcelona was essentially making a huge gamble. Save the club now, and worry about the future later. The club needed to return to competitiveness, but it couldn't simply spend endlessly anymore. So Barcelona had to change its approach. Instead of depending entirely on expensive superstars, it began looking towards something it had always possessed: its academy. The rebuild. A new generation began carrying the famous badge. Young players started getting opportunities. Pedri, Gavi, and eventually, a teenager who would capture the world's attention: Lamine Yamal. The philosophy was changing. Barcelona couldn't simply buy its way back to the top. It had to build again. Young players became more important. The academy became more valuable. And the club began trying to create a new generation of stars. For fans, there was finally something to believe in again. But the financial story wasn't magically over. The damage caused by years of spending couldn't disappear overnight. The club had survived. But survival wasn't the same as being financially healthy. And that leaves us with one final question. The final twist. Did Barcelona really escape its financial crisis? Or did it simply buy itself more time? The club survived. It rebuilt. It found new stars. And it began looking toward the future. But the lesson from Barcelona's crisis is bigger than football. Because success can make a club feel invincible. Trophies can hide problems. Superstars can hide bad decisions. And money can make almost anything look possible. Until the bill finally arrives. Barcelona didn't officially become bankrupt. But it came through one of the most serious financial crises in its history. And the club is still fighting to prove that the worst is behind it. Because Barcelona survived. But the real question is whether it learned from what nearly destroyed it. The empire didn't disappear, it simply had to rebuild itself from the ruins.